Was very disappointed and troubled to read this news recently, as were all members of this committee and most Americans, no doubt. I am reassured by the comments of General Neller and the Sergeant Major this morning about how serious they take it and the gravity with which they treat it. General Neller, you mentioned that there are 30,000 members of this group. You don't have the breakdown of active versus reserve versus retired. Any indication yet of the breakdown between Marines, NCOs, and officers?
Not in specific numbers. I think we're going to get that information, Senator. But I'm not going to speculate on what the level of officer involvement is or isn't. But I think the NCIS folks can tell you that. I don't know the number. I'd be speculating, but I wouldn't say this is it's highly unlikely this is just enlisted, but it doesn't really matter. You know, what these members, and I just remind that, not to stick up for Marines United, but the great majority of people that went to this site, and there are other sites. I mean, we find sites all the time. I mean, we're looking out there, and NCIS is looking, and people are telling us about other sites. So Marines United is not alone in this despicable, disgusting behavior. But I think eventually we'll know the breakdown, not just who was a member of Marines United, but who went to this other link and participated in this behavior.
Regrettably, I'm afraid.
Sir, if I could add.
Yes, Mr. Stackley.
To date, we're dealing with cooperative information. In other words, we're trying to draw information short of probable cause in which we can seize the information. We're gaining it cooperatively. NCIS has opened up a tip line. They have received, as of yesterday, 53 calls on that tip line that's opening up other avenues to help to identify individuals, but also to identify these other sites that the Commandant has referred to. And my opening statement, I call this a bell ringer. This is a bell ringer. We're not going to go back. We need to plumb the depths of this issue to understand how far, how wide it is, and then working up and down the chain of command, whether you call it culture, whether you call it good order and discipline, get not just every Marine, every man, woman in uniform to understand what our standards are, what is and is not acceptable on one hand, and on the other hand, prosecute these other avenues where this behavior is taking place to the extent of our ability. We're not going to go backwards.
We have spoken at this hearing this morning quite a bit so far about law and policy, and those are important questions. I want to speak just a matter about the expectations we have for the young men and women we have in uniform, putting aside law and policy. Back when I was a company grade officer and we had to do safety briefs every Friday afternoon to ensure that if our soldiers misbehaved on the weekend, we could tell our chain of command that we had ordered them not to do so. Rather than get into every single detail that soldiers might do over the weekend, I would simply say, obey your general orders in the law and be a good soldier, a good citizen, and a good man. I assume that your company grade officers and company grade NCOs do something similar on weekends or before it passes. Putting aside the requirements of law and policy, General Neller, do you believe every Marine should know that this kind of conduct violates the spirit and the ethic of the Corps?
Senator, you would think, after all the discussion and all the training and the things that we've done, that people would understand that this type of behavior was unacceptable. But apparently whatever we've done or tried to do is not worked, or we haven't been clear, or people think that they can go on social media with some persona or avatar or character. But as Senator Gillibrand rightfully stated, I mean, some people use their full name in their unit.
Yeah.
And because they participate, the frustration is what is a crime and what is not, as opposed to, boorish, stupid behavior. And this is beyond that. So that's where we are in working through that right now.
Sergeant
I
Major?
believe, yes, I believe, and if they don't, they should now. And Commander, myself, I'm going down to Camp Lejeune tomorrow. I'm going to talk to people and make sure they try to make this as crystal clear as I possibly can.
Sergeant Major, if I could just ask you one question.
Your time has expired. Senator Blumenthal.